Always enjoy this. My chance each and every Friday to catch up with my old mate, who's not old in years, wise in years, old in experience and film knowledge. It's Van Connor with 1, 2, 3 tip-top Freeview film recommendations for you for the weekend. Good morning, Van. How's your week been, matey?
All good, Mr. Ross. Can't possibly complain. There's a pretty big movie week this week for the theatres. There's some pretty big titles there, so I've been kept pretty busy.
Marvellous stuff. Now, you've gone for one horror channel recommendation. I've gone for one slightly later on. Yours is tonight, 10 to 11, on the horror channel, which is a Freeview channel, of course. Tell us about Mom and Dad, a week before Halloween weekend. Why this one?
This is a horror movie, but not in the traditionally scary sense. This is more of like a nasty, visceral, almost zombie-like movie, starring Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair as suburban parents who become part of there's like a sort of Night of the Living Dead style unspoken event that occurs that turns all the adults in the world into violent psychopaths intent on murdering anyone to hand, and most of them seem to be home at the time that this happens, so they all turn on their kids. So what you effectively get are Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair's kids having to defend themselves from their own murderous parents. But of course, it's Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair, so this is not exactly going to be played straight. So I've got a clip for you. This is on the horror channel tonight at 10 to 11. It's good fun. It's madcap, visceral, violent terror. Nicolas Cage at his most unhinged. And in order to demonstrate this point, I've not even got a full clip for you. I've got like 15 seconds of Nicolas Cage just losing it in that way that only Nicolas Cage can. Now bear in mind, he is trying to murder his own daughter as he does this.
Okay, so the family that stays together. It's Mum and Dad. It's on the horror channel, or Mom and Dad as they say in America. It's on the horror channel, 10 to 11 tonight. Here's Nicolas Cage eating the scenery.
Oh yeah, you put your right foot in, you take your right foot out, you do the hokey and you work it all out.
That's got to be an ad-libbed improv bit, hasn't it? I mean, nobody's going to recommend to Nicolas Cage. There's this British song they sing at, like, weddings and functions called the Hokey Cokey. I've never heard an American sing the Hokey Cokey before. That's a fantastic clip. I've not seen this. I cannot wait to catch this one now. So that's 10 to 11 tonight on the horror channel to get you in a proper Halloween mood. I've gone for something also that starts bizarrely at 10 to 11, coincidentally, but it's on Great Exclamation Mark Movies, which used to be Sony Movies. It's from 2009, a kind of dark satire film, very good science fiction film, made I think on a shoestring, directed and written by Neil Blomkamp. It's his feature film debut, set in South Africa, produced by Peter Jackson, who loved the sound of the script, obviously, and it's basically about aliens have turned up, genuine outer space aliens have turned up, and they're placed effectively in ghettos, in townships in South Africa. So there's a resonance with what's occurred in the past in South Africa, and, you know, pre-apartheid or during apartheid, people being put in the townships, and also maybe the way we regard and treat immigrants and arrivals on all shores in the current era. But it's a very good, very moving film, this, because it's somebody who polices the area, who suddenly starts to turn into an alien himself. I don't want to say too much about it, but it's an absolutely cracking film. And this did surprisingly good business, I think, didn't it? It kind of broke out from South Africa into be a bit of a global science fiction hit, this one, I think, Van.
Absolutely. It's more about the filmmaking, I think, that got it such acclaim. There was the great performance from Sharlto Copley. We kind of got introduced to Sharlto Copley from this, and then he'd go on to the 18 movies. And he's still working with Neil Blomkamp now, really.
And of course, although it's got an element of found footage, what I like about it is it isn't all found footage, which I find gets a bit tedious after a while. So
there's a lot of apartheid referencing in it, as you say, when you talk about the relevance of it. It's very much geared towards providing a parable, I think, allowing a sci-fi viewpoint on apartheid. And it works. It plays that message. It's heavy-handed with it, but it works very well.
He went on to make Elysium, he went on to make Chappie. The film that was his breakthrough, though, is on at 10:50 tonight. It's called District 9 from 2009. Haven't got the clip or trailer for this one because we wanted to move on to your next one, which is almost an old-fashioned blockbuster from earlier this century, of course. Now, this year, this December the 7th, will mark the 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, a day that Franklin Delano Roosevelt said would live forever in the annals of infamy. We all know the story. This is a big, kind of bold Michael Bay blockbuster version, though, you're recommending, man.
Yeah, I mean, the film lives in infamy as well, but in a very, very different way. Trying to defend Pearl Harbor, as I'm about to, is basically seen
I'm
as
with
the
you there,
fool's
because
errand.
when this film came out, I was reviewing films for a tabloid Sunday newspaper. I love this, and I got roundly castigated by other critics. Yes, it's big, it's old-fashioned, it's over the top. Yes, it's very gung-ho pro-American, but it's just a great roller coaster ride.
This is why we work so well together, Paul, because I'm on your side on this one. Now, this cost $140 million, made its budget back on home video alone. Wow. This is, I think, still Disney's biggest hit in Japan. It is
in Japan?
Old-fashioned.
In Japan?
Yeah, of all things.
Because it ends with the attack on Japan by the American. Yeah, the detectives kind of give them a bit of payback, and they say you're not safe, you've roused the sleeping tiger. So this was a smash in Japan, was it?
This was a smash in Japan, who genuinely heaped critical praise on it. And one of the things they famously said was, it's an infinitely better movie than Tora, 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 which might make them the first people in history to have ever said those words aloud. I mean, it's worth noting, as you point out, it ends in Japan. The movie's called Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor, despite being obviously the inciting incident, is only really the first half of the movie. The second half is the Doolittle raid, in which Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett, who we forget this is, a time when Josh Hartnett was the up-and-coming heartthrob for 5 minutes. But the pair are sent on the Doolittle raid by Alec Baldwin on fine scenery-chewing form, as Doolittle, to basically, lead the retaliatory attack on Japan. I've got a clip for you of Alec Baldwin as Doolittle, coming out with what I think is the film's best line of dialogue. It literally ends with this line. I think he's tremendous in this. Worth noting as well, this made just under $500 million. So it is regarded as a flop despite making, $500 million at the worldwide box office. And still holding the record, I think, as the first movie that ever got nominated for Worst Picture at the Razzies and then winning an actual Oscar, because this won Best Sound Editing. So it was the first that ever pulled that off.
It's also, just a cautionary note, folks, it's a very long film indeed. It's over 3 hours long, but it's on 2 tomorrow afternoon, so it'll still be on about 6 o'clock with all the ad breaks. Probably, it's Pearl Harbor. It's 20 years old this year, and you've got a clip for us, you were saying, man.
Yeah, I've got a clip. So this is Alec Baldwin as Jimmy Doolittle, basically laying out his mission for his new recruits.
I need you for a mission I've been ordered to put together. You know what top secret is?
Yes, sir. It's the kind of mission where you get medals, but they send them to your relatives.
Top secret means you train for something never done before in aviation history, and you go without knowing where you're going. You do it on that basis or not at all?
I'll go, sir. I'll go too, sir.
By the way, Macaulay, the Brit sent this over. It's your personal effects.
Thanks, sir.
There's only one more thing I can tell you. Leave your goddamn hula shirts at home.
Okie dokie. Now, coincidentally, my next recommendation is a Frank Sinatra Second World War film. He, of course, won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for his role in the original Pearl Harbor film, From Here to Eternity. Great movie, and he's great in it. He's also very good in, I think, an unjustly neglected film. He made money. It was his most successful film of the 1960s, Von Ryan's Express, based on a successful Second World War novel, released in 1960. Great cast. Yes, of course, Frank Sinatra. Trevor Howard's in it with a rather obvious fake beard stuck onto him. John Layton, who's also a pop star and then turned up in The Great Escape, turns up in this, as does Brad Dexter, who is in The Magnificent Seven, but also appears in a few Sinatra films around this time, because the reason is he saved him from drowning on another film, and he became a big mate of Frank Sinatra's. It's 2:25 on Great Action, which is another former Sony channel. 2:25 p.m. Von Ryan's Express from 1965. It's basically a prisoner of war film, an escape film, an unusual ending, which I think Sinatra had a hand in insisting on. Here's the trailer.
You are about to share every fantastic step of the most daring mass escape ever conceived in the mind of man. Only a madman could plan it.
What the hell is this?
Only desperate men fighting for their lives could follow it. Only a hijacked prison train could blast them on their frenzied dash to freedom.
Talk about an over-the-top, overhyped trailer, but it was the 60s, cut and stuff. It's a good old war film, that one. Frank Sinatra never that convincing, I think, as a Second World War character, because by then he's got his he was very vulnerable in From Here to Eternity. There's no vulnerability about the character here, but it's an interesting film if you want some kind of Saturday up. Record it and watch it later on, or watch it at your leisure on Great Action, 2:25. And I've gone for my horror channel recommendation, Sunday night, 9 o'clock. Very disturbing film. film like no other film, but it's directed by David Cronenberg, often a director like no other. He'd already broken through into the big time with The Fly, but I loved his stuff in the 70s like Rabid and Shivers. Very disturbing director who often talks about body dysmorphia. Made a film called Videodrome with James Woods. I think Debbie Harry pops up in it as well. It's on the Horror Channel. Dead Ringers, in which Jeremy Irons plays twin gynecologists, one of whom isn't quite right and starts to develop an obsession with altering the female form, and they operate in bright red kind of hospital gowns which make them look like weird cardinals of gynecology. Very disturbing film, also starring Genevieve Bujold, so it is a melon twister. It's not really quite horror, this. I don't know what you call it, a kind of psychological nightmare film almost, Fan.
It's definitely a head trip. I mean, it has all the vintage Cronenbergian elements. It has the body horror and the psychological twist. You look at something like The Fly, for instance, where that is as much about the head trip as it is the physical transformation. Here, very much the same thing. I'd forgotten it was Genevieve Bujold, because it's one of the anniversaries of Star Trek this year, and she comes up a lot because she was going to be Janeway at one point. She was cast as Janeway, which weirdly would have made half the Trek captains French at that point. Strange thing. But she's great in this. Yeah. She's really good in Dead Ringers. It's
a real actor's film. Jeremy Irons is fantastic in it. He was hot to try anyway, because I think by then he'd made Die Hard with a Vengeance, or was about to do. It's on the Horror Channel, Sunday night, 9 o'clock. It's Dead Ringers.
Doctor, I think there's something wrong with you.
Patients are getting strange.
What are they? For working on mutant women.
From David Cronenberg, who in The Fly made the fantastic real.
Get him out of here!
Radical technology was required.
Something radical is definitely required.
Now, David Cronenberg makes reality the ultimate fantasy. Dead Ringers.
Separation can be a terrifying thing.
It most certainly can. Now, you've gone for a sort of scary film, but it's a Sunday afternoon scary film on ITV2, based on the great kind of short story novel franchise, very big with kidults. It's Goosebumps for you on Sunday afternoon, Ben. Tell us about this one.
Well, you know me, Paul. I'm a big kid at heart, and I love horror. And one of the things I really loved when I was about 10 years old were point horror novels and the work of R.L. Stine. And I think I wasn't really looking forward to this when they said they were going to make a movie. And I saw it, and I genuinely said at the time, that is this generation's Jumanji. And I stand by this. This is effectively Jumanji for old school horror movies. You've got Jack Black as a fictional representation of R.L. Stine, literally playing R.L. Stine, who has become a recluse in a small town, has locked all of his original Goosebumps novels away, and he has done this for the sole intent reason that it turns out R.L. Stine can literally create the monsters he imagines, and he imprisons them within the books. So all the Goosebumps monsters were actually real. They're locked in the actual source novels.
Brilliant setup, brilliant.
Brilliant setup. Of course, the movie is they all get out, and it falls to a bunch of plucky, almost Scooby-Doo-ish teens to save the town and put all the genies back in their respective bottles. I've got a clip for you of Jack Black. This is on ITV2, Sunday afternoon at 1:10. It's the perfect time for it as well. It's the perfect family horror movie. It's very broad horror in, it's vampires and zombies and giant praying mantises and abominable snowmen and things like that. Really fun time. Perfect for a Sunday afternoon. Get the kids around, put this on. It's a blast. I've got a clip for you of Jack Black laying out the sort of how these monsters are real setup.
Perfect. Well, for Halloween, 1:10, ITV2, Sunday afternoon. Here we go.
What are you doing here? Go home.
Not until you explain what's going on.
I can't explain it.
We were almost just eaten by Frosty the Snowman, so try.
Okay, look. When I was younger, I created my own friends. Monsters. Demons. To terrorize my neighborhood and all the kids that made fun of me. And they became real to me. And then one day, they actually became real. My monsters literally leapt off the page. As long as the books remain locked, we're safe. But when they open, well, you've just seen what happens.
Almost a quote there from Thriller, to terrorise you's neighbourhood. Tell us how we can hear you and Rebecca Perfect in podcast form later on today, I think, with Off Screen, isn't it, man?
Yeah, you can hear us from 6 a.m. We're going to be talking about Dune, and more importantly, Dear Evan Hansen, which I think might be the worst movie of the year so far. So that's to come on podcast platforms.
If that doesn't hook you in, nothing will. So it's off screen, courtesy of your normal podcast providers. And Van's back with us next Friday. Meanwhile, I'm joined by Rebecca Perfect on Monday for a perfect roundup of all matters showbiz, technology, TV and film related on talkSPORT and talkRADIO. The weather up next.